Okay, here we go. This is going to be scuffed, first of all, for those watching right now. But TJ and myself, I'm Bepic, are live right now from the Southeastern Esports League LAN venue at UAH here in Huntsville, Alabama, with Collegiate Exclusive. And we just threw this together like impromptu.
30, 40
we decided
minutes.
we were going to do it. Yeah, last 30 minutes or so. I put together the graphics. TJ pulled together a bunch of links, and we're live right now. So I'm going to pull Twitch chat up, make sure everything sounds okay. No music for this one because I didn't set that up. But we're live. TJ, how you doing?
I'm doing good. We get Collegiate Exclusive after hours. We're here at the SEL venue. Of course, the very fitting conclusion to a wonderful SEL Season 5. Not to mention that we have many players from this LAN who are playing in RLCS or have already played in RLCS. In fact, Pigeon, over directly to my left, your right, just made Day 3 through uppers and has to play complexity for seeding.
That's crazy.
So there's a lot of action going on today.
It's so crazy to me. Like, it lands like this that players are just playing these pro RLCS guys whose names we've been hearing about for the last several years, and they're just playing them right next to us. I love that part of esports.
I mean, it's just a pleasure to be here overall. And we're glad we can actually support all of these players.
Yes.
We don't have a single player who had to drop out of RLCS because of what we have done here. And everybody's actually had a pretty good time. In fact, I'm surprised Pigeon chose to play on 240 hertz instead of switching over and playing on 360 on the stage behind us, which you can't really see because it's dark behind us. But either way, just take my word for it. We love that we're able to support all the players. Also, we watched Bruton Parker, literally Bruton Parker, other than Antics is subbed out for Milk, and they played against Pirates on a boat. It was an 0-3, but it was a close 0-3, and they actually now have a loser's run that I personally think they can make. So Milk, first time ever B+, and also Manny and Cass returning to B+, and then hopefully pushing to rank A later tonight. We got more info on that later, though. We got a lot we got to get through.
Yeah, so as you can see in the graphics, I think on that side of the screen, no, this side of the screen, I got to learn that orientation now. We're starting off by talking about the big-time headlines, which I think in the last several weeks since we had our last episode, which we were going to have an episode day after CECC happened, but the setup was not good. Nothing like this, where we could steal Scott's lights and the SEL venue and microphones.
And we're traveling.
And we're traveling. Yeah, I haven't been to Auburn in 3 weeks, I think. So I've been a traveling man. You've been a traveling man.
I've been moving, yeah.
So we've put together a podcast finally. We're going to talk about CECC to start off with because that's the big event. I mean, that's the national championship essentially for, Collegiate Rocket League and various other esports that the CECC does house. So let me put that up on screen, and
I'll go ahead and I guess give the context to CECC. So everybody entered for another great Texas event. They do it live at the Esports Stadium in Arlington.
Here we go.
It was a $2,500 LAN, and it was winner take all, which is very interesting. We can talk about that in just a second because I have to talk about the level of team perfection, the level of team success that was at this CECC. It was truly the most skilled CECC ever. And also in the past, a lot of these kind of weird side league type of bids have gone to teams that maybe you could argue don't deserve it. But I would even say out of the teams who were projected to lose out, we still had a lot of talent.
It was a pretty close event, all things considered. I mean, I'm going to scroll down to the results right here. I mean, I think there was a pretty distinct split between the top 8 and the bottom 8, which we did discuss when we power ranked these guys. But there were still good results. Like GCU took Shawnee State to Game 7, and if they win that, I mean, they go to top 8. Shawnee State is they lose out, so top 12. And Shawnee State loses out on that bid. Pittsburgh beating Northern Arizona, I think, was a pretty good result for Pitt, who have looked decent
matchup
as of late. It really is. I mean, that's more of the for sickos in CRL. I was trying to think of the term. But that's for the CRL sickos that really follow teams like Pitt, like NAU, like SNHU, who did end up taking a game off Kennesaw State, who qualified for top 12 as well. So I think we could start in Group A. talk about results from there, because Kennesaw State beating Lubbock Christian, I think, was the biggest upset of that first day.
Yeah, I was waiting on you to say that. That was easily my first pick for matchups. Also, that is not the normal starting Kennesaw roster. It's supposed to be Flitz, TNT, and Curry. It was actually Flitz, TNT, and Dylan who leads the B team. And so that was a very interesting point for them to not only beat LCU, but to do it all the way in 7.
Yes.
It was very, very impressive. And I'm also just very happy that a Georgia school and a Southeastern school, an SEL family school, is all the way up there.
The SEL did have 2 representatives at CECC, and obviously Cumberland, since they took the SEL bid, but Kennesaw State's there because of their Peach Belt win back in the fall. They had to pull out a master class to beat Coach Bepic and his Huntington boys, but it's all good. They represented it well. But then Group B, talked about it a little bit. Grand Canyon goes to Game 7 against Shawnee State, a rematch of a Monday Night Lights series that happened on my stream a couple weeks prior, and it was streamed on that main stage. It was hype, apparently, but Shawnee State gets the better at GCU again in Game 7.
Yeah, did you get to watch that actually live?
I was flying,
okay.
no.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, so getting to see that from home, unfortunately, because I couldn't make it, it was a very, very tight contested series. I don't exactly have the game scores with me, and they didn't report them, unfortunately, either, but GCU looked the best I think I have ever seen them. I do not think that was a story of Shawnee looking bad. Shawnee looked good throughout most of the weekend. They always tend to show up in Texas like this, but GCU really have been workshopping. We haven't seen a GCU league or LAN performance in a hot minute since I believe it was back in March. They had a GCU hosted LAN that was also a mixed virtual event that they did win. So at least you had that title. You then get to see ECC representing your conference, and then you go all the way on the main stage. Even losing that series, it hurts in the moment, but looking back on it, that's a really just critical, awesome experience, especially all the way in Arlington.
And those guys did stick around as well to watch the rest of the event. Like I got to talk to them throughout the weekend, see them, say hey. So I'm glad that teams do stick around for the other events or for the other matches later on in the event. But Group C, Akron went 12-0. They topped it, looked really good. Davenport second. No real surprises there or really close series. I think the level of skill that Akron and Davenport have is a couple leagues above Pitt and NAU.
I mean, also given the context of the PlayFly Tournament of Champions that happened leading up to this event, there is schools like Cumberland, there is schools like Concord where you looked at them and Northwood as well. Sorry, not Concord, it was Northwood and Cumberland. You have to look at them and say that they actually had a great LAN showing. Northwood actually walked away from that Tournament of Champions as a champion. And there's the main bracket as well. Akron Gold was a part of that, did well. USF, funny enough, had a big upset win over Akron Gold to then earn the higher seed, but unfortunately for both of them, it just didn't matter.
Right. I mean, when you're playing in a tournament that includes Northwood and Cumberland, you're kind of playing for that one upset win, maybe third place technically for USF. And the crazy thing is, so Northwood already had a CECC bid, and this tournament did feed into CECC later in the week, which we talked about and kind of criticized on a previous CEP episode. But Northwood had a bid already. Cumberland already took the SEL bid, and so it went down the line to then Akron Gold, who couldn't compete because you can't have multiple teams from one school at CECC, and so Akron Gold could have been at CECC playing. Instead, they were just there spectating and supporting their A team, and then USF had to go home. And I think the bid fell down to Arizona that ended up taking it.
I want to say that's exactly right. And yes, it is. Good call.
Thank you.
Yes, so Arizona did get that spot, but it really sucks because USF came out of nowhere.
They would have been fun to watch.
And looked better than Akron Gold on LAN in that moment. Now, granted, after watching Akron Gold for the last year and a half, since they had, since they got 5 up, they brought in Oxy instead, and now it's Emilio and Jan alongside him. I really do think that Akron roster would have potentially made it out of groups. I think if they were placed in Group A or Group B, they may actually have beaten Shawnee. They could have beaten LCU or KSU. I mean, they had great CRL runs together, but yeah, that rule about not being able to bring the same school twice, especially knowing how CRL is structured right now, that's a tough one.
I get it, though. I get it, because you want as many brands there at the event as possible.
It is the most representation in all of collegiate esports.
Right.
So it is a fair point.
Like 20 teams from different schools across North America. I can understand trying to keep that intact. But Arizona, I mean, they put up a decent fight. I'll go back to the results, actually. I turned away too early. But they took 3 games overall. Looked decent against San Jose State, but that was really it for Arizona. SJSU, I think getting that win over Arizona kind of sets them apart, because in CCS, that's kind of the benchmark I have for SJSU and Arizona. I think Arizona was considered a better team throughout the season, so BU and his boys got the W there.
It's a big win. Also, not to mention, in Group D, Ball State goes to 7 with Cumberland. I don't think it's an unexpected result, but Ball State on LAN, being the defending CECC champs, I expected them to kind of roll Cumberland. But that's why I wanted to bring up that Tournament of Champions bracket, because Cumberland did look good. But also a very interesting point, once we get down to playoffs in just a second, Northwood looked incredible on LAN, and they were having fun on LAN.
Yep.
I don't think there was much shocking to go over in the top 4 spot. Boise State got one through the Western, and Illinois State got the Northern? Midwest, and then Fisher got the North, and Concord got the East.
Yeah, South.
South. The way that CECC calls or direction, it's not north, south, east, west. It's mid. Anyways, moral of the story, really nothing surprising there, other than Concord did struggle a little bit. Illinois State, without Cosmic, takes them to 6.
Yeah.
Boise goes to 6 with Fisher. That was the most shocking, surprising round. And then Fisher-Concord go the distance. I was thinking that was going to be the first and really the start of something special we were going to see from Fisher, because they did well in Kentucky, their first LAN as a team. They come to Texas, they go to 7 with Concord, and then they simply go 2-1, making it look easy against everybody else. So I thought Fisher was not done yet, and unfortunately I was wrong.
Dude, Akron looked so good until the grand finals. I think that was my takeaway, and we knew they were LAN demons because they looked so good at the Bluegrass Boost battle. And I was thinking, when they were playing Northwood in that semifinal, I was like, if Bullseye steps up and plays consistently good Rocket League, then they can beat Northwood. And he did so. But Patty was really the X factor. He was popping off in that set, and they made Northwood look bad in that series. Northwood went from, in the PlayFly Tournament of Champions, when they were 4-0 sweeping Cumberland, Creams was vlogging in between games, pulling out the camera on stage, to then getting beaten on by Akron in the semifinals on stage at CECC. That was kind of unbelievable for me. And then Akron, I think they looked nervous against Concord, and that was their one bad series.
Which, that's the craziest part. We've talked a lot about this series ever since CECC finished, and I don't even know if we've decided on our respective opinions, but basically my take from it is Akron are a LAN team. It is undeniable, and they are the best team in the CRL top 10 on LAN until now. Kentucky, they proved it with flying colors and dominated everybody. Didn't go to a Game 7 one time. Went to 6, I believe, once in Kentucky. It was incredible to witness that happen as they repeated at that LAN, and we'll have to see how they do in this coming season. But Cumberland have shown that they are up there, a very good LAN team. They actually took Akron to 7 in the very first round.
That was a good series,
and if Cumberland wins that, I think that changes everything. I think Fisher doesn't lose. I think Fisher would have overcome Cumberland, or would have gone to 7 or 6. But, I mean, Akron made Fisher look silly, made Cumberland at least a tough matchup. But, yes, now I want to get to that Northwood matchup, because I am very, very confused. I want to vouch for Northwood so bad. They are Captain America. And, you know, includes Zanil in that conversation, and Creams as well, however you want to say it. But with Northwood specifically, in that PlayFly Tournament of Champions, they dominate Cumberland 4-0. They don't drop a game the entire tournament, maybe one in groups, if that even. And then they show up. They were on stage for that matchup as well, and Northwood just crumbled. I have never seen Northwood crumble other than 2 times this entire school year. BBB in the spring, and then right here in Texas.
It was rough for for Northwood, but Akron played really well. So credit to the Zips. Maybe they came out and threw Northwood for a loop up on the main stage. Because, I mean, no matter who you are, it's not easy to play on the CECC main stage. And I mean, we talk about Northwood's experience. Hockey, I think, is the only player on that roster that's made a deep run at CECC.
Yes, and that was also back in Atlanta, I
mean, he's made a couple runs at CECC.
Maybe I'm forgetting 2023.
Either way, they did get a bit embarrassed in that semifinal. But then Akron, I mean, if you're Northwood, like, Akron embarrasses you, and then Akron kind of gets embarrassed in the grand finals. Those first 2 games, Akron looked so nervous against Concord, and Concord didn't show any nerves at all. And I even asked them after the fact about it. I was like, do you guys even get nervous? And Concord told me if they were playing Northwood, they'd be nervous, but they weren't nervous against Akron. They liked the matchup.
When you go through head-to-heads, funny enough, the only 2 teams I think who are actually over Concord at this point is Ball State, temporarily, because they dominated them in the spring up until when it mattered the most in the CRL Spring Championships, and then, of course, at this event as well. But then it's Northwood, and they have also, I won't say dominated, but it's a much more wider margin to look at than the Northwood. Northwood has a wider margin against Concord than the Ball State. It's been a long day. But then in that grand final, I'm glad you were in person to actually talk to them about it, because I kind of got the secondhand story after they got home from Texas and watching it live as well. I was with Shaka, funny enough, in call, talking about this series. And Concord finally found a way to, A, play confident on LAN against a play style that is extremely unconventional, but we're pointing and laughing at Akron. That just goes to show you, I think Concord did more than just their daily reading on Akron, and it really showed, and they looked great.
That's another championship win for Concord, who have won so much this spring. It's a bit absurd. And we've covered the CCC, we've covered Playfly, which was a Northwood win. So they did get their national championship, which we'll break it all down here in a little bit, like listing out the national champions. But I want to talk about teams that weren't there, who were at NACE.
This was a fun one.
Yeah. So let me put the bracket up there. But Maryville and West Virginia, not at CECC. Those were the biggest notable names that weren't there. But they were at NACE.
And also worth noting is that NACE did their winners semifinal as best of fives, whereas CECC did theirs as best of sevens. And so that made things a little interesting. And there was a lot, I think, of overhead politicking when it comes to NACE because of how high level these varsity programs are, not just in Rocket League, but with names like Maryville, St. Clair, West Virginia, Akron. Those are schools who showed up to NACE looking to actually take multiple titles. I know NACE does a little mini Directors Cup as well, and for good reason. These are some of your highest level varsity schools who participate in NACE, and there was some big shockers here.
I mean, Maryville 3-0 sweeping St. Clair is wild. And I mean, West Virginia, they were a middle-of-the-table team when you consider maybe the top 16 of CRL this season. But they finally showed up, really, for an event, and maybe could have taken technically another national championship here at NACE. And, I mean, the venue as well looked sick. It was big, it had a crowd, and so there's also that to factor in. There's pressure that does come with that. But, hey, Game 7 Grand Finals, and Maryville does end up winning their national championship, despite not playing in really any of the other ones.
Yeah, this was about a week and a half or 2 weeks before CECC as well. So I think Akron took a lot from this LAN, and I think the biggest reason why they struggled against West Virginia is because, well, West Virginia hasn't even been playing at the top of CRL in most of this spring. They signed Gyro, and we thought immediately West Virginia were going to maybe jump into the top 4, top 6. They were already in that conversation. We thought they could enter Concord, St. Clair, Maryville when they have Wave, and of course Northwood conversations of consistently being one of the best teams in the nation and kind of this revolving door of who's going to win an open. But Gyro doesn't play, subs in ever so slightly every now and then, but didn't really have a consistent spot. And then, obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Gyro did play, and I believe Wave also played at this LAN. I think Wave did at least.
I mean, he should have, because he was
in
back. The starting lineup, just not able to play CRL
back in the
and
States.
all that. Yeah.
Yes, but I don't know if Gyro actually played or not, because if they beat Akron 3-1 without Gyro, I'm actually more surprised by that. And it looks like, no, actually Knight played. Oh, wait, no, that can't be right. It says Ixo Calix Knight. We don't know. The names on NACE are definitely not right, because I got to watch some of that live, and I hate that I can't remember who actually played, and we don't have the VOD either. But I'm going to assume that for Maryville to go all the way, that it was indeed Speed, Ixo, and, I mean, even with Knight, they're still a very talented team. But we're also trying to look at West Virginia right now. There's an account named Jarrett B.
And Matt.
But I do see Gyro. But again, if Calix is on there, then what the heck, right? So we're just going to assume. I think we should assume that Wave and Gyro both played. I think that's the only way they go to 7 like this. If it was Knight and without Gyro, I think Maryville, I would argue they win that still, but I don't think it goes to 7.
This is a great time to request someone out there to make a centralized esports, Collegiate Esports website to keep track of results like this. But it is what it is.
Or the VOD too. Like, I'm surprised I don't even see a VOD. But now I have to look. So we're going to keep talking, but
we'll fact check
I am going to look in the
ourselves.
meantime.
Well, it's also worth noting, definitely the least significant, I think, national championship of all the alphabet soups, but still worth talking about. CCS did end up wrapping with Akron Gold taking the championship there. They had their massive 64-team bracket here. My prediction sucked, so we're not going to talk about them. But the top 4 here was what everyone was kind of expecting here. Drexel, Michigan State, Akron Gold, and Missouri here. But Michigan State beating Drexel, I don't know if that was on the cards for a lot of people. So shout out to Michigan State for making a good run to the championship, where they were blanked by Akron, who are the favorites. Like if you predict in CCS, you either predict Akron if you're boring, because that's probably what's going to happen as they've come into the league and dominated. They take it seriously in moments like this. But we had some spicy predictors out there. I mean, you went with Missouri, didn't you, TJ? And I mean, they made a deep run.
So I had Missouri, Michigan State.
Okay.
So I at least got the Michigan State pick right. I have more than enough faith in that roster when it matters most to actually show up. And Drexel's been on a kind of cold streak, in my opinion. So I had that. Now, Akron Gold and CCS have been almost unstoppable, so maybe I should have known better. But I really, truly thought that Missouri have been on a high, especially actually getting to go to LANs as a team. Bubs had his very first few actually at Kentucky, and then they got to go to NACE as well, I believe. And so for all of them, I really thought they were going to show up, especially with I got to remember everybody. So Crims came back into the lineup right around March, and I thought Crims, former rank A player, finally getting hours back in the game. I thought for sure against Akron Gold they would make it close, and they did. But got to make an upset pick every now and then. But Akron Gold, probably the safest possible pick. That 4-0, though, against Michigan State, I'm more surprised by.
They just know how to show up for championships, even when they're tested by really good teams. Akron Gold knows how to win, and that's just something you can't really instill in players. It's something that they have to either learn themselves or just come inherently with. I mean, I think back to Collision on the Coast, when Florida was playing some of the best Rocket League I have ever seen out of them, and Akron Gold still finds a way to quash them in the grand finals there and win a LAN in an environment that's not comfortable for them, but they still are able to win. And I don't know what makes them that way, but they just are so comfortable in environments like this, where they're playing a Michigan State coming off of a big Drexel win, and they still 4-0 sweep them. It doesn't matter.
I mean, Akron, a tenured varsity program for a reason, and even down to the B team. I mean, anybody but a B team when we're talking about Akron Gold, seriously. They have LAN wins under their belt this semester as well. They've always looked great. So big congrats, Jan, one of my homeboys. Shout out Jan. Love Jan. But also, I'm more happy for Oxy and Milio as well, because they all have such different stories. Jan has always been the next man out when it comes to the Akron rotation before 5UP got there.
Yeah.
It was easily Milio and then Jan, but now they get to work together, and that line gets blurred a little bit more because they're such a good duo. But Oxy is so incredibly underrated. I feel like that not many people actually talk about the skill level that Oxy brings to the table because of the tenure of members like Jan, especially Milio as well. So I'm just glad that for all of them, they get a major league title. It is CCS, which, again, we love CCS, but maybe it's a little bit down the priority compared to NECC, et cetera. But it's a really good start, considering the fact that they couldn't even play at CECC.
And the competition is getting better in CCS as well, I think, which with each season. The fact that the top 4 is pretty well nationally ranked. I'm pretty sure all 4 of those teams are in the top 30. Drexel might have been just outside top 30 in the last colleague poll, which was several months ago now. We need another colleague top 48 for the end of season, but that's a different topic of conversation. But still, great event for Akron Gold to come out on top of. And what else do we have? NECC's LAN, because that wrapped up in between CECC and now.
I can also very quickly give you this as well. Maryville did play with Wave.
Okay.
West Virginia did not play with Gyro. Gyro does not appear in any of the tags or the pictures or anything from West Virginia or NACE. And also didn't even make a first team or second team all NACE.
I mean, he's listed on the roster game page.
I mean, but when they checked in, I think they just went down the list, because that must be the coach, right? And then down. Either way,
that would make sense.
Knight did not play. I can confirm that, which means NACE is wrong. So NACE, please help us. But no, seriously, that is even better for West Virginia then, because it's a full-strength Maryville who arguably should have been a top 2 team in CRL if Wave could have stayed with the team. Obviously, at his brother's wedding, can't blame him for that at all. But anyways, now we can move on from NACE. And so congrats to Maryville. They deserved it. I also learned that West Virginia had beat Maryville earlier, not in bracket play, but in group play. So that's funny as well. Also, Bruton Parker was there. So shout out the SEL.
Yeah. They qualified over Davenport's B team as well. They were slated to actually play a Monday Night Lights, or I was inviting both of them separately, and then Bruton Parker and Davenport had to play that night in a best of 7 already just for NACE LAN qualification. So that was funny. But here we go.
Let's go to San Antonio.
Nationals. This was scuffed.
Yeah, let's talk about it, right? So NECC Nationals, they decide to, first of all, go to the San Antonio Port Tech Center. I believe that's the full name of it. It's a beautiful venue. I know a lot of people who work in that venue. I know that San Antonio actually holds high school championships in that venue. Cool. They have a great history with esports, and there's a lot of great people, not only from NECC, but with the San Antonio Port Center as well. But with this LAN, there was a big issue. It was the direct weekend, starting the exact Friday after CECC. Yep. And so in terms of expecting teams to sit there in Texas, not only Texas, in 2 separate parts of Texas, that's a tough one, and you can see in the bracket that it not only hurt the total team registration, but I would say it probably hurt the quality of the results as well. And, we can talk about Akron as well immediately.
Yeah,
so here was the big thing from what I was told about Akron. We don't have a direct statement from NECC, so please do not 100% take this, but from what I was told directly by some of my guys at Concord, it sounded like that Akron was invited to come play virtually as the 4th team. Northwood had already declined. So
well, they were invited but had to drop out because Creams broke his wrist in the week or so prior, and so he just wasn't able to play physically.
Trying to do Tournament of Champions and CECC, yeah, that's a very fair point. I did not know that, so back it up. Akron was next up because Northwood physically could not play, both in person and with Creams. So Akron got to show up, and they did play a game, but then from what I was told, because they were playing virtually, there were some concerns that arise, and then Akron forfeited out the rest of the event. So the only 3 teams that were there in person was Concord, Oklahoma Christian, and Illinois State, without Cosmic as well. And Oklahoma Christian hasn't gotten to be involved in any of these major championships up until this NECC Nationals.
So, they had a good NECC season, too. Oklahoma Christian actually had some really good results in group play, and we are pretty far removed from group play, so I don't have the results off the top of my head, but they finished well and made a decently deep run in playoffs. So for them to make a run to the grand finals, which I will pull up in a second, I think is a really good way for them to cap off their season in NECC, although they did fall flat against Concord. Still not a bad showing for them, beating Illinois State and then making it to play Concord, but Concord gets another national championship.
We also weren't told the format of this as well. I have no idea if there would have been a bracket reset or not, but I can't imagine being Concord in this scenario. You go through group play, and then you just kind of have to wait for the other 2 teams to go. We're dealing with a similar situation with the Valorant portion of the SEL LAN here in Huntsville, but I would say that for an event of this high degree, especially given how successful NECC has been as a brand and as a company, this is a tough one to say the least. But I am very happy for Concord and Oklahoma Christian because Oklahoma Christian needed a big result to cap off their year. They have had a very, very heavy season of ups and downs, rumors about their school program, potentially having budget issues. There's been a lot going on. Illinois State had the same thing as well. Yeah. So for both of those schools to actually make it in person and represent and go down as a top 3 team for the D1 section of Nationals, the best 3 teams in all of NECC, technically by bracket, then you'll take it. And Concord definitely cruised in that series.
And I think talking about the sort of scuffed nature of this LAN, I don't think that's necessarily on the NECC. I think this was a pretty decent event, but the fact that we have so many national championship LANs in collegiate esports, I think a lot of schools were experiencing budget issues. They were experiencing more than likely player burnout. Once you're done with CECC, that is a whole ordeal to play through. And then to have to travel again, Concord did it. North would have had to do it. That's a lot.
I can't imagine with NACE in the mix as well.
Right.
Like, if Akron would have actually shown up in person, they would have gone Orlando to San Antonio. Sorry, other way around. Orlando to Arlington to San Antonio in 3 weeks, or about 3.5, 4 weeks. Still, that's ridiculous. And the fact that Concord was even able to had this trip, I believe they had it partially sponsored, and that was the reason they could actually make this happen. But for them to have to go outside of their main school funding, they are a very well-funded program as well, with direct presidential support, like many of the other schools in this kind of whole jumbled-up mess of lands. But for them to even be able to pull it off was insane. I'm glad they at least won the whole event. I think that makes it worth it in the school's eyes and especially the director's eyes as well and the players' eyes. But you bring up many different points, obviously the budgeting, the mental, not to mention Kareem's literally having a physical limitation.
Yeah.
It is a lot to ask of these players, and I think it's the first time in Collegiate Rocket League history where we've actually had this conversation of schools' budgets being stressed and stretched as far as they physically can, and also player burnout at the highest level, especially with a lot of Europeans coming into this to actually play CRL, but even some of them not deciding to show up for NECC. It's a very interesting conversation and a debate that I'm sure will follow into August.
And it'll be interesting. I wonder how many of these schools will pull out of more of these alphabet soup competitions and focus maybe some in NECC, some more on NACE, some more on ECAC. Because, I mean, they do have bids into CECC, and so there are opportunities. And so playing in multiple, I can see the importance there in getting to CECC, but we've seen a mess of dropouts. And, I mean, for a variety of other reasons as well. But I mean, at the SEL LAN, we've had a number of dropouts just because there are so many LANs, and the timing as well for the SEL LAN wasn't great because a lot of teams are already home, so traveling separately is just more of a strain.
Finals for some.
Finals as well, graduations for others. But that's a whole other topic of conversation. I can be critical of our planning for the SEL LAN. But talking nationally, we're seeing that same sort of effect here in May.
I have to bring this up as well. We can talk about LAN burnout for the first time in all of CRL.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, but here's one of the biggest things I'm concerned about. One of the best parts that I enjoy about Collegiate Esports is how more regional events can happen. Our event is a great example. Bluegrass Boost Battle, I think, is the best example in all of Rocket League. Boost on the Beach, a great national example as well. So what I worry about is with all these national events, schools have to prioritize where they're putting their money. So NACE, NECC, ECAC, and Playfly, those four you have to go to if you're competing in it. And I'm surprised these schools were even able to decline, unless, of course, they didn't have the budget to show up at all, which is a crazy point to have. But then the other issue, too, is that LAN-wise, the spring is always busier. That's just a fact in terms of LANs, in terms of company involvement, in terms of traveling, in terms of the conclusion of all of your seasons. It is the busier side of a school year. So what I worry about is that with LANs, like Boost on the Beach being in March, Collision on the Coast was in March. You obviously had Bluegrass Boost Battle in March as well.
The Gen G Coastal Clash.
In March, too?
In
early April?
I don't even
It was
remember.
around the same 3-4 week period, though, and that's what I want to bring up is that what happens to some of these other LANs where, for example, Bluegrass Boost Battle has gotten funding increases and real attention on the program and the region from Gen G, who's already been with them but now continues to support them. In fact, their Rocket League team's right there, right now, playing in their lab, which is awesome. But then for some of these varsity programs, what if they don't show up? What if the quality of the LAN then decreases because these schools have to prioritize? It's a tough conversation to have.
I mean, honestly, I think that might be for the better if the national contenders aren't going to these local LANs. Even though, like, the prize pool is good, and I'm sure that does help offset some of the travel costs. I think the kind of tier 2, maybe tier 3 of CRL deserve those opportunities as well. And if all of the rumors we're hearing about the influx of more highly qualified players are coming into CRL, then that's only going to exacerbate the issue where these already good teams are getting pushed down. And that's something that, as over the next probably year and a half, things develop, we'll get to talk about even more, kind of follow that story pretty closely.
I do at least have a half solution, though, that I also want to bring up as well, is that the fall needs to get busier.
Yes.
Specifically that preseason window, it needs to be busier. Now, I'm not saying August, like CRL started way too early. We're not going to talk about that. Even going into January in the
January
spring.
1st,
we
CRL
don't need
event.
LAN events at the beginning of January or the beginning of August. But what I want is, for example, Hugh Fest was at the very beginning of September. And I hate that LAN wasn't as big as it should have been. It did include teams like Ole Miss. I believe West Virginia and Concord were the best 3 teams in a row there. I may be forgetting maybe one more. But LANs like that, preseason kind of cursor events, those need to be more common. Luckily, Bluegrass Boost Battle happens every semester, so you get that. And I may or may not be on an event in September. that will be a great LAN. I'm very excited to announce in about a few months' time. But that's my point, is that more stuff needs to happen in the fall, not only for these teams to get LAN experience early on in their seasons, to see new rosters, to see freshman phenoms. Those storylines have to be created somewhere, and also the players need to get experience somewhere as well. So I hope we see more in the fall. September and October, we have yet to see a Halloween-themed Rocket League LAN. Why not, right? Like, let's get creative. Let's at least jump in the...
All right. That one's for free. The next one will cost you if you're TO out there.
Like, let's jump in the mix. Let's actually make things fun in the fall, full pun intended, and then keep the spring competition based like it always has been. But, we'll see. I'm just pitching ideas. And, again, I am going to be involved in something around the early window. Not August, but the early few months window, maybe around that September, October window. Very excited, but just keep your books open, keep your calendars open.
We did have DreamHack Atlanta as well.
That too as well.
That like a good one.
But here's the problem with DreamHack Atlanta is that it's been in 3 different months, 3 different years.
Yeah, and it's changing again this year.
It's either going to be October, November, or December. When that happens, and if DreamHack does decide to bring me and Doja Frat back as organizers, we would love to host DreamHack once again and make it even bigger than before, with maybe even some stage time if we get really lucky. But we have not gotten word back on that yet. So hopefully DreamHack Atlanta Collegiate returns, or DreamHack Dallas picks up Collegiate, but that's not a fall event. So either way, we'll see. Just pitching ideas, and that, I think, wraps up all of our national LANs.
Yes, and I want to go through and congratulate, just to wrap all of this up in a tidy little bow, all the national champions. So congratulations to Concord for winning the majority of them, actually. NECC, they won Spring ECAC, which wasn't necessarily a national championship.
They overcame Ball State. That was the win.
That's still a win. They beat Ball State. They win ECAC Spring, and then they win CECC as well, which is the big one. So Concord wins a whole bunch. Northwood gets Play Flying. St. Clair gets CRL, which was another big one, albeit only online. Maryville gets NACE, and shout out Akron Gold for their CCS victory. And those are all of the national champions.
Yeah, we could obviously break down into Division A, ECAC, Div 2, NECC.
No thanks.
Yeah, we're not going to touch that. I will throw one last point in before we keep moving on.
Yeah.
St. Clair struggled at every other LAN. At every LAN they've been to. They did not win a single LAN event this year, and that truly does shock me. That might be a point for future episodes, maybe closer to August, but have to bring that up because they had the opportunity to win NACE, to win CECC.
Yeah.
They got CRL, and then they had the opportunity to get, maybe it was just those two.
CECC, Blue Bear Boost Battle.
Oh, and NECC as well.
Were they at NECC?
Well, they're in Div 1 at NECC.
Okay, yeah.
They definitely
that
were
was
qualified.
online, though, to get there.
That's fair. So either way, I'll still throw it in the mix. NECC, NACE, CRL, which they did get, CECC. So 3 other titles that Concord, funny enough, stole almost all of them, not the NACE title. But the NACE one was confusing me the most because I was very shocked to see them kind of crumble to Maryville. They didn't even get a game. We didn't really get touch about that. I don't think we really need to.
Yeah.
It's just a tough rebuild phase. Not even a rebuild phase, just a tough step back, maybe a nice break for St. Clair. They also just lost the academy team as well to graduation, so maybe not as much in-house going on, maybe more funding focused on the St. Clair Green roster. Hopefully they can go travel more, be more involved in the community. I got to meet all of them at Bluegrass Boost Battle. Me and
Cool
Shuffle
guys.
did the CRL soccer matchup that you may have heard about, and that was awesome. Some of the guys in this venue were at that as well, so I love those guys. I want to see them succeed, but a surprising end to a great CRL season.
They got CRL. That's a big one.
Your priorities go somewhere, right?
Right.
You'll take it.
There are a lot of directions your priorities do get pulled in CRL nowadays. But let's talk regional. Obviously, we're here, so let's talk SEL LAN. So far, it's been a pretty good day one. We didn't eliminate anybody today. But I'll show the Wikipedia page off. Shout out Shaka for updating all of this. But this is what the bracket looks like right now.
Sorry for light mode.
Yeah, right. Bruton Parker and James Madison. Actually, I can change to dark mode.
Oh, thank you.
Just
Beautiful.
like that. Look at that.
Clap it up.
All right, so Bruton Parker and James Madison topped their groups. I don't think we were too surprised about that. Really, the only surprising series results in groups was UT Dallas beat Bruton Parker Academy in 5.
That was the only surprising result, unless you count UT Dallas getting a game on Bruton Parker as a surprising result, which I will say probably yes.
They went to 5 in winner's circle, though, so it's not too surprising.
That is fair. But we did talk about this on the SEL broadcast a lot. UT Dallas has been waiting for their, I think, shining moment, especially with a senior on the roster. Granted, it is a senior last-minute sub in a Waysicle, but very exciting to see. Also, Dalton is Unk, so he's basically a senior citizen, maybe not a senior in undergrad, but jokes aside, they look really good. The best I have ever seen them, and no Blippy here as well.
Yeah, they have made it work. I mean, look at that 5-game set against James Madison. And UT Dallas, their defense really did impress me, even with Oase stepping in. And you could tell at times that it wasn't seamless for them. They were still figuring it out. They still looked really good. James Madison, though, gets the win in Game 5. They play Bruton Parker in the upper bracket finals, which could be a preview of our grand finals tomorrow. And JMU, they could have won that series because it was a 3-1. Again, it's their third straight 3-1 loss to BPC. But that Game 4, they had a 2-goal lead with a minute left. And they end up giving up 3 straight to Bruton Parker and the overtime winner as well to the Barons. So that could have gone 5. Who knows what happens there? But Bruton Parker end up winning. It's looking like they're going to retain their crown here in the SEL with no Cumberland here.
I mean, obviously, we get to talk to all these players who are here in person, and a lot of opinions, a lot of new ideas being shared across these rosters. With Bruton Parker, since there's no Cumberland now, we kind of return back to the SEL Season 5 fall stage where it's like, okay, maybe we're all competing for second. But Bruton Parker did look beatable today. And I will say this is the best I've seen James Madison play Bruton Parker specifically ever. And that's a very, I mean that when I say that. And I do think that if Gad and Tyler can find a way to not match Pigeon, they do a good job playing around Pigeon, but they have to try and play around each other better as well. It has to be a 3-man unit because with Cass, Antics, and Manny, there's simply just no cracks in that armor. And James Madison did almost outclass them at moments, but again, giving up 3 goals, I think that was the perfect representation of the level of dominance mentally and in-game that Bruton Parker have over this team.
I just don't think there was enough quantity of good looks for James Madison, where like Bruton Parker you expect. All 3 of those guys are so good. They are constantly putting good shots on target. And JMU was doing a good job of slowing down the Bruton Parker attack. But for James Madison, I mean, I don't think it's fair to ask Gad and Tyler to play like Pigeon and to match his output because he is the star of that team. Like don't get us wrong there. But JMU have to get creative with how they make up for the deficit in quality opportunities compared to Bruton Parker. And they did that in that series. Their transition game looked really impressive. Their passes were crisp for the majority of the series. And that's what got them so close to upsetting BPC. But it wasn't enough. Bruton Parker withstand them. And Manny looked so good today.
Not only that, but then when Manny, Cass, and Milk have decided to then play RLCS together behind us, they look really good. And I know they did lose the Pirates on a boat in a sweeping fashion, but that is a roster, and I'm excited for next season. It sounds like that based off the rumor mill that Milk will come in and be a starter next season, which I have to smile a little bit. Milk's been grinding so incredibly hard, and obviously if Antics wants to return to full hour form, I think Bruton Parker can get even better, but obviously whatever they decide in-house will be the best decision moving forward, and we're excited to see if Bruton Parker can actually cap off this iteration of their roster with a win, and also it would be Cass's first LAN win, and first overall, I think, seasonal win, league win by any means, so very excited for him as well.
And I think it's time. We don't have much to predict now that we're at the end of the spring, but I think we try and predict this bracket.
I'm ready.
Right here. And there are pretty clear-cut, I think, options in round 1. UAH is here for vibes and vibes alone. So are we in agreement that Bruton Parker Academy wins there?
That's a 3-0. We can at least agree down to the score. That's a 3-0.
Yeah.
It'll be off stream. It's a 3-0.
Yeah. UT Dallas, ETSU. This is where it gets kind of stressful because on one hand, ETSU looked okay today. They've been in decent form recently compared to how they have looked this spring. Like this was a last chance qualifier elimination team. ETSU didn't even make playoffs in the spring after making top 2 in fall. And I think they look decent today. It's Skyline's last LAN, so I know he wants to perform well, but UT Dallas have looked so good themselves.
It is a 10 a.m. game, and we made a lot of jokes with the UT Dallas guys. They need their beauty rest, a Waysicle specifically. But this is a tough one. My heart wants to say ETSU because I can't just sit here and forget that ETSU weren't our second best team in the fall in this school year. But I feel like here on the day, especially in a loser's bracket, based off what I saw in Knoxville, I think I go UT Dallas, but I think no matter what, it goes to 5.
Okay, we differ here because I think I'm predicting East Tennessee State over UTD.
Look, it's probably not a safe and good prediction, but I think that Dalton and Zora look really good.
They do, but it is a 10 a.m. game. And I suppose UT Dallas played well at 10 a.m. this morning when they beat Bruton Parker Academy.
It's a prediction. I'm
So
going to stick with it.
I think ETSU get the win. So we differ there. So lower bracket semifinal, we both have Bruton Parker Academy. Do you have your winner of UT Dallas ETSU advancing?
Ooh, I think no matter who wins that, I think Bruton Parker Academy make it to James Madison.
Really?
I will stick and I will stand on that. I think no matter if it's ETSU or UT Dallas, I'm still riding with Bruton Parker Academy.
Okay, I think I differ there as well.
Okay.
I want to ride with whoever does end up winning that ETSU UT Dallas series.
You think regardless of who wins that,
Of who wins,
they will beat Bruton Parker Academy?
I think they beat them.
I'm glad we differ. I think in a rematch, given the level of play and the level of VOD review and the level of coaching that this Bruton Parker Academy has behind them,
yeah.
I think these are the moments that you are built for when you sign to Bruton Parker. And I think that warming up against UAH Blue could hurt them in game
one. That's what I'm thinking.
UT Dallas has they haven't lost a game 1 all LAN, funny enough. So I do think that maybe if UT Dallas gets in there, maybe they get off to a good start. But Bruton Parker Academy, top to bottom, especially with Corrupt at the helm of it all, I really like their odds mentally. I don't think if UT Dallas win it, they can overcome Bruton Parker Academy a second time. But I could see a vision where ETSU can overcome Bruton Parker Academy based on their history as a roster. And if UT Dallas was here with Blippi, I would agree with you. I would say whoever wins that moves on. But I think with Oasical, I think he runs to a brick wall in the form of Milk, either in his grill, Kyler, either in his grill, or Corrupt in his grill. It's just Bruton Parker. It's a dirty play style. It's hard to overcome. I think on LAN, it's why Akron succeeds. I think it's why they're going to succeed tomorrow.
And anyone who gets out of that 4-team group down there, do you have them beating James Madison?
This is a tough one as well. Here's my issue. I think that if a team makes the loser's bracket run of dreams all the way through, I think that no matter what happens, if James Madison loses, Bruton Parker goes 4-0-4-1. I think no matter who comes out of that, if they beat James Madison.
Yeah.
James Madison gets a break, but whoever comes out of that loser's bracket semifinal should be a hot Game 4, Game 5 series, regardless of who wins. Give me James Madison, but give me it with a Game 1 loss, and then I think that they get on their high horse like they did against UT Dallas.
Okay.
I think they lock in when it matters. Pigeon will be absolutely locked, especially since he's playing Complexity. I think just finished as well. Give me James Madison. I think it happens at 4.
Okay, I think I'm with you there. James Madison definitely should beat any of those teams that emerge from the bottom side of the bracket. And I want that rematch with Bruton Parker because I think they can beat them in 7. I don't think they do. I don't know if we see a bracket reset of this one. We got our bracket reset in the high school showcase LAN that we did on Friday. I think Bruton Parker handles business, probably something like a 4-2, maybe a Game 7 trip just for entertainment, but I think Bruton Parker are the eventual champions.
We are in the exact same boat. I was going to say Bruton Parker in 6. As much as I would love to see a bracket reset, I will say this. If James Madison does take it to a bracket reset, I think that will have to take all of their manpower and willpower. That break will be minimal between games as well because we're on a tight schedule. So I think Bruton Parker, even if we do go to bracket reset, show out and win 4 or 5.
All right, so there you go. Those are our predictions for tomorrow. More than likely a Bruton Parker James Madison rematch in Grands, but BPC definitely heavy favorites.
The games will be
at
great.
The moment.
They will be great.
Will be great.
We should only get one sweep, and it will be off stream. I think every other game will go the distance, and it's all best of 5s up until Grands as well. So it should be very tight, fun, quick, contested games.
And this will be on Esports SEL tomorrow as well, starting at 10 a.m. We'll be running throughout the day until Grand Finals.
Yeah, we go 10, 11, 12. CST. We go 10, 11, 12 CST.
CST. And then we break for Valorant, and then we get the Grand Finals there. So that's the schedule for SEL. Make sure to check it out. Obviously, we're repping them here in Huntsville. But moving along here, we have one more accolade to give out. Normally, we do our Player of the Week team of the week, but I think we agreed 3 weeks ago, if you remember, TJ, the final team of the year award. I think it's pretty obvious who it's going to in CRL.
I think if you ask the entire colleague poll and maybe even your grandmother who would be the best team in the entire spring, it goes to Concord.
Yeah.
We're going to pull up a tweet, or at least talk about a tweet they put out as well with the amount of titles that they won. I think the total was 13. I'm not exactly sure. It's actually, if you scroll up, MrBepic, it's actually...
I can't. I'm not logged in.
Well, that sucks. I'll do it then real quick. I believe it was 13, the total amount of championships, LANs, and overall events that this roster won. Again, one of the most impressive seasonal runs in really all of CRL history. I don't mind saying that or standing on it. I know it's a bold take, but I don't mind at all. And now I actually found the tweet. So the total amount that they won, it was lucky number 12, not 13, 12. And then now we can run down the list.
I mean, this is a crazy resume for Concord. All of their event win. Like these guys are winners. They started with the Hugh Invitational, won a colleague event, CRL Open, then CRL Fall, then ECC in the fall, then they won an ECAC event, then Boost on the Beach, and it really gets serious here. Then they advanced to CECC as a regional champion, win another ECAC event, win ECC again for the spring, which Southern New Hampshire was their competition there.
That is their athletic conference.
It is their athletic conference. It's still a competition win. And then they win CECC and NECC just to add to their national championship tally. And they get rings as well for their wins.
They've gotten multiple rings. Funny enough, I did get to see some pictures of their rings because I'm very close with that roster. Shout out Taylor, their substitute, who sent me pictures of all their stuff. I wish I had that picture to then show on stream. I do not, unfortunately, but they look great. I'm sure Concord will be posting about them soon. They also just had their official ring ceremony. I believe 3 weeks ago. It was for the CRL win, and they combined it with the ECC fall win. So that means now they have rings coming for NECC, CECC, ECAC. Did I already say NECC?
Dude,
either way,
so
they're going to get. There will be a 4 overall event, because the South Regional won't count, but the 4 with NECC, CECC, ECC, ECAC, those will all be combined probably into either 2 rings or 1, and yes, I just flawlessly said all of those. I'm going to give myself a round of applause. They will probably get 2 extra rings for that, and they're going to save those ceremonies for the coming school year when everybody's back on campus, and they live stream them as well. So congrats to CMOS, Helix, Crispy, and of course I got to shout out Taylor and Johnny Boy.
He won ECC.
Taylor did win ECC. That's an earned ring for Taylor. ECC. Almost said ECAC, but got it this time. Grand final. What was it, a 4-2, 4-1?
4-2 against Southern New Hampshire.
So you'll take it. Shout out Tay. And obviously Johnny Boy and Austin have built an incredible program in the last year. For CMOS and Crispy to just show up with Helix, who is their hometown hero, who's from West Virginia, who's been building in that program. I mean, jumped from about 1,900 freshman year to then 2K to then 2,100 to then 2,200, is currently, as of this day, pushing 2,300 as well. And not playing in RLCS, unfortunately, but hopefully will once he's able to get a team this next season. Regardless, this team is incredible, and they're a fun group as well. We've gotten to spend a lot of time talking to them and casting them. The only thing I will say, because there's a lot of positives, there's only one negative. In the spring, there's a big acronym that's missing. It is CRL. So I do have to note that Concord in CRL have had their fair share of struggles. In the fall, showed out well, but the moment that Northwood got back on their high horse, the moment that Maryville brought in Wave, the moment they brought in EXO was the spring edition, that's when they started to struggle, and I think they started to figure out those teams towards the end. But now with the rumor mill going, with Rank X players about to keep joining the fray, both from Europe and from NA, not to mention that there's literal children, RLCS pros, who will be getting into college soon. There's a lot coming. I don't think Concord are going to hold on to this throne for too much longer unless they make some serious adjustments, but I do think they can do it, and at least you have a very, very successful year.
It's a good launch pad, at least. And these guys are young as well. Like, the 2 Europeans are both freshmen. Helix is a sophomore, and they've got years to work together. And from what I can tell, they plan on sticking as a unit. Where in CRL, changing your roster has become sort of the norm, going through the same roster changes, roster windows as in RLCS. These guys, want to stick together as well, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, they're going to ride their entire careers out. They are going to be adding a Rocket League coach as well. They'll be changing up the sub role and some other things. Nobody's going to come and take any of the spots, but there will be some changes, I think, from the mental side. Granted, I don't think they really need much help on that front, but in terms of longevity, we talk about burnout. They're going to be adding a lot of mental capabilities. They already have a licensed doctor who work within the esports program. There's a lot that's going to change, a lot that will be announced this summer, I hope, for them, not just in terms of what the org and the school are doing, but also what the Rocket League team is doing. So fun stuff soon, but we've got a very big, long list to go over next. RLCS has been going on, and we have a list of everybody who made it through uppers into the top 48. We don't have the top 32. We have a few people who we can say made the top 32, but we haven't gotten to check just yet. So here's the list. It's very long. I don't think we're going to read through all of them, but there's a lot of highlights here, some SEL players, and I'll let you pick first.
So this is all the CRL guys that have made a run this regional. It's going on right now, so there are players that may not get as far as they might hope. But we can go pool by pool, I think, because obviously we got Pigeon playing. He's watching RLCS now, so he's not playing anymore.
Well, they've already qualled, so I don't think they had any. They should have anything to play.
Well, they had the seeding match with Complexity, and then that was it. I think that's
they're done.
Up. Yeah.
Yes, so Pigeon will be
Pigeon.
seated on the bottom side of the winners, but, I mean, you get Complexity, so be it. Meanwhile, Bruton Parker is waiting on their next matchups. They have to win one more best of 5 and then one more after that to actually qualify through losers. We'll talk about that in a second. So in Pool 1,
Polar as well.
Yeah, Polar and Pigeon from the SEL making their way in. There's some more fun players on this list as well, but in terms of SEL, it's those two.
Yeah, I mean, God, that little Step Rose team is a lot of fun to keep track of with the Alpha Cap stream and all of that. Gababy as well. I mean, Syracuse standout. Drewy, longtime CRL player. So congrats to those guys for making a deep run. And it's crazy to me as we get into Pool 2 as well, just how many CRL players are making top 48 runs in RLCS.
Whole lot of Europeans as well.
Well,
I mean, which we'll talk about that in a second. First of all, there is a little bit of SEL. Shady, who made their first Rank A appearance in the fall, will now get Rank A once again. And from what we've heard, I don't know how their losers run is going. I don't believe they've made it through uppers, because they had to go up against, 9 lives and Zanil, who's been on fire, not only online but offline as well. Oath, fellow Ball State teammate of Guh. Tool, Cosmic G-Man Angel, the West Virginia group, plus G-Man from OC. They're having a great time. Zookeepers is alive and well. CMOS leading the Concord squad. SimTalk, and that's just a really funny. It's Talk, CMOS, and Tricky. That was a very funny team, but they haven't missed a main event. So you know what? So be it. And then Jazzy and Cam as well.
And then Pool 3, my guys at Michigan State, Opbomb, Morvu and Knock, and then Cryptic from Columbia College. I love the Great Lakes representation there on the All-Americans roster.
Made it through uppers, too. Morvu's team did.
Let's go. And Drip, Wellis, Knight and Adam, big-time CRL guys over the course of the last couple
also
years.
coaches those guys. He was on the podcast last time.
Oh, sweet. Shout out to Shane. Nightya, Cumberland
SEL
representation.
champion right there.
And then Flitz, to a lesser extent, SEL representation.
Toasty as well, throwback.
Yeah, he used to play for what, NKU?
NKU.
Ooh, Bluegrass Boost Battle. Did he ever play? He did play.
Yes, he did. They have
really is a throwback.
I believe they've won one of the very first BBBs before UTK started winning, and then King started winning, and then now we're here. So anyways, moral of the story, big shout out to Flitz, Nightya. Those are only 2 major SEL members. Flitz has played a few SEL series, so we're going to count that. But also, congrats to Morvu and the Michigan State guys for making it through uppers with Cryptic. Granted, I believe Knock was riding the bench on that I think just had to sub out. But Cryptic's a great player. I think Cryptic would start on that team if they were the real Michigan State roster. So a little fun Great Lakes / CCS moment.
And then Pool 4, shout out Taibu.
It's a fun one.
SEL Season 5 Fall Split standout player. Well, one of the best players in the SEL ever. And he only played several weeks. But still, he did compete in the fall. Ian, in region at Daytona State. Rhyolite, same deal. Also in region. Rhyolite does play at Radford with a former SEL player. So we've got the
shout out Super Smurf.
Let's go Super Smurf.
And from what we hear in the rumor mill, maybe Rhyolite and the guys will get some upgrades over at Radford.
I've heard big things are happening over there.
So if they do join the SEL, we may have another contender based on what I'm hearing. But that's for another episode.
Then Jonathan, we just talked about Akron Gold. Hockey Creams, 5-up, Manny, Milk, Cass. Let's go, Bruton Parker boys, yeah. And then Justice and Daunt to close out the list there.
And obviously, we are still waiting to see Manny, Milk, and Cass play their games. Funny enough, they will most likely run in, I would say, 2, 4, 4, 5, or Jonathan. I think that's actually pretty likely based on the way they are all seated around each other. But yes, Poab did beat Bruton Parker, so shout out to them.
Yeah.
Hopefully, they make another deep run. But what will be really funny is that I actually believe I forgot a team on this list because where is Strictly Business? I don't see Crispy. I don't see Ixo. So I forgot all about that. I apologize. And I hope that those guys make another deep run because they are I believe, top 8 away from basically clinching a spot in Raleigh. So that'll be a fun one to watch. And I completely forgot it, but I guess they get their own point.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool to see those guys, former European pros as well, coming in and doing well in North America. So hopefully they do it again here for this regional. But I think we have covered everything.
Sounds good to me.
It's time for the
Scholastic
Scholastic
Minute. It's been about an hour,
Minute.
has it not?
Yeah, just over.
Okay, well then, yeah, let's go ahead and touch on late Scholastic Minute. We got some interesting ones. Yeah. Funny enough, we have to revisit the whole high school drama once again.
So, all right, so I'll pull up that tweet first. We can talk about it. So this happened. It's another issue with the Play versus HSEL merger stuff. So this team was in HSEL, is a Super Smash Bros. Roster. And apparently they went 73-1 over the course of the last 4 years, which is absurd dominance. But they were left out of the Play Versus Cup, which for those that don't know, the Play Versus Cup was the Play Versus National Championship. It was all online, and now they have merged it with the HSEL National Championship, inviting HSEL teams to the Play Versus Cup. But this team didn't receive an invite.
Well, I want to give some context as well. For those of you who don't know, high school esports has officially combined into one being, all under Play Versus. Play Fly, Play Versus, and HSEL, which includes Generation Esports, are all merging into one item. And again, they will be under Play Versus. So with all of this happening, it seems like maybe the moves been made a little too quick, not to mention that HSEL Nationals was one of our major topics on our last episode. I have a lot of opinions about that. Unfortunately, many teams did miss out on a big LAN chance. Luckily, there is a great group led by Icy Chiller, great TO, and a lot of friends who I get to work with as well on a recovery event for the HSEL teams. But seeing this was a big, big surprise. Not to mention this email as well. If you haven't already started reading it, at least read the back half. This is directly from the Play Versus staff. And I have opinions. I want to let you talk first, but I have opinions.
I mean, they are apologetic, which, fair enough. I mean, it's a pretty big mistake just leaving a team off of your national championship list. And I hate as well the fact that they canceled their trip to the makeup LAN that Icy Chiller and his group are hosting. And then kids canceled vacations as well. And there are a bunch of seniors on this team, too. I don't think I can't get to the replies here. No,
I can look. But there is, let's see, we have several seniors that have been nothing but the best for 4 years. So that roster, I would imagine, is probably anywhere from 3 to 6 kids. So a safe note would probably be about 2 to 3 seniors.
And so now that's their national championship in their senior season gone. And I don't want to – you can't fault individuals here, but the fact that this oversight happens during the merger between Generation Esports and Play Versus does raise questions about what's going on internally there.
We have some info on that as well. In the replies, there's a lot of reading to do. And so so Coach DJ is who wrote this tweet, who represents their school and this team. So I'll just kind of read from his replies.
Yeah.
Somebody said they'd like to know more, which to basically TLDR it, he said that PlayVS had a miscommunication internally, and our team was left off when the schedule actually released. They said they've been in near daily communication with the Play Versus rep directly. I would assume the person who wrote this email since April 30th to get set up for the Play Versus Cup. And they actually set up the Play Versus Cup team page. Play Versus did themselves. So somebody manually had their team ready to go, but then struggled. And then somebody also said, was there no attempt to remedy this error? And then they said, not a single one. They've been in contact with their rep the whole way. I confirmed on Friday we had everything submitted, and the Play Versus Cup was mentioned by name in this conversation. So whoever was in charge of that, it seems like they didn't look and just assume that something happened. So I agree with you. I don't think there's an individual that can be blamed,
Yeah.
but this is just absurd.
It's a bad
and
look.
for there not to be a remedy of any kind to get them involved, not even like a play-in of some kind,
Right.
I just am very, very confused at how this happens, because you know for a fact that when PlayVS is going through their seeding, that's got to raise some red flags. 73-1, that's got to raise something.
And I hope it's not a sign of things to come with this new entity, the PlayFly HSEL PlayVS entity, because this is a bad mistake. And you could sweep it under the rug of it happened during a merger. I'm sure things are chaotic. I mean, we've seen tweets from HSEL staff about being laid off or maybe not laid off. And I've talked to PlayFly people as well, just going about their business, doing their job, and seeing what happens at the end of all of this merger. So it's a bad mistake, and I really hope it doesn't turn into anything else in the future, but I hate it for the seniors, and it's a really, really rough look for the PlayVS team here.
Yeah, I'll leave my thoughts with just one kind of 2 sentences-ish here. PlayVS has already changed the PlayFly Collegiate side of things to PlayFly Collegiate by PlayVS. They've already gotten the naming rights already figured out, but you can't give a high school team a spot, a very deserving spot, in a national title. It's very, very absurd to me and just very sad overall. I agree with you. I hope it's nothing more, but that little tidbit right there, you've already done your branding. You've already done your next steps, but you forget about literal children and literally some of the best Smash players across the nation. It's just absurd. And I know that PlayVS doesn't exactly hear us, but they've heard the community, and I hope there was a release that was made or will be made after the PlayVS Cup. There has been no press release. There has been no response directly from PlayVS officially, either in replies, and I haven't heard an update from this coach as well. So
I imagine it's happening internally.
I hope so too. But based off the communication, this is just an absurd oversight.
Yeah.
There's nothing you could say that makes it better. It's just simply a really poor move, and you've directly hindered children's experiences, and that's pretty evil, but that's me being strong as well, just kind of feeling for these high schoolers because I get to work in this field as well. It's tough. It's just how it is. I guess at the end of the day, you can't change it, but still a great multiple years. 73-1.
Yeah,
they
congratulations to those kids.
Yeah, they probably won multiple national titles through the HSEL League play. Probably won multiple PlayVS titles as well. I don't know if they won the PlayVS Cup before. I would imagine based off that record, the answer is multiple, but it sucks not to get the last one, even if they are multiple-time champions in-state and out-of-state.
And that's another sour note for the Scholastic Minute, because we covered
high school in a row.
Yeah, significant updates, which we started our podcast in a tumultuous time for high school esports. So I guess that's...
But again, the good news is that the makeup LAN is going well. The
yes.
setup is going well. Right now, I will be casting Rocket League. That is official.
Nice.
It hasn't been announced just yet. And we're going to be looking for more hands in the mix as well. Currently, it's a volunteer event for these high schoolers. But if you are interested, or you know somebody who's interested, or you know some sponsors who want to donate some prize money or items to the prize pool, please let us know. Let me know.
All right, last item on the docket for this episode of Collegiate Exclusive, the CECC award winners, which we have a list of just underneath the CRL in RLCS list, so that's why it looks similar. But these were the winners here. And I don't have strong opinions, honestly, for the majority of these. Tony Ann winning Tournament Organizer of the Year is completely deserved. I got to see in person just how hard she works to make CECC function.
So many teams.
She's running she's running back and forth the entire time. It's really impressive, and that's not to mention all of her online work. She handled Peach Belt, so I was working fairly directly with her on that, being a coach in the league at the time, and seeing how she runs that and just how much effort she puts into running these different events for Esports U. So deserved win. That's not just like Esports U patting an Esports U employee on the back.
She was up last year as well and didn't get it.
Genuinely deserved.
I'm very happy for Tony Ann. Love Tony. Always has been such a hand that is willing to bring students up individually or as a group. Tony never misses a DM, never leaves anybody egoed or anything like that. Just an incredible person. But also, I have a list of all the nominees as well. Boost on the Beach was up there. We were a part of that. ECAC Campus Series was up there. I was a part of that. NECC Nationals was up there. Tournament Champions was up there. College COD made it up there. So big congrats to them. But Tony most definitely deserves.
I think Chase Newcomb as well for Advocate of the Year.
Big.
Also a great win for him. Getting to meet Chase this year. He's a great guy, great personality, and he cares deeply about the Scholastic esports scene.
And the fighting game scene as well. Basically, has
Yes.
built it from the ground up with the team at CFGC as well. Big shout out to them. Also, Tom Screech from Harrisburg is in this mix as well. Those two were my predictions per se. But funny enough, CFGC actually had Jason in this mix as well. So big win for the fighting games community.
No
they had
kidding.
multiple nominees, and of course, Chase winning. I mean, if you see Chase in person, he's the happiest guy you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
And he's also one of the biggest ball knowers when it comes to fighting games and the biggest advocate as well. Not only for the collegiate level, but the high school level as well. We got to win us a great tournament over in Myrtle Beach.
Yes.
For Boost on the Beach as well. They did a high school and a collegiate showcase tournament. It was awesome. So big shout to Chase.
And then broadcast team of the year. I was happy to see St. Clair win this, and this is something I didn't know about prior to this year when you and I started our Collegiate Esports calendar. It's a Discord server.
The Gauntlet series.
Yeah, St. Clair and Adrian have been posting about their events in the CEC Discord server. So I got to see firsthand with I guess pictures, so not firsthand, but I got to see how St. Clair hosts events and how quality they are. So shout out to St. Clair for winning
And Adrian.
Broadcast Team of the Year, and Adrian as well.
Adrian, I believe, is still an undergrad or a grad student as
Really?
well. Adrian is a student.
I
know
actually
that
didn't know
because me
that.
and Adrian have gotten to talk a lot. We have a lot of respect for each other. We work in very similar fields and we have similar upbringings. Adrian is one of the next prodigies to come out of St. Clair and out of the broadcast world and collegiate. So big shout out to Adrian. I really, really was surprised that Adrian wasn't a direct nominee for Student Leader of the Year, but I have no concerns that Adrian will be back up for many awards in his future, either as a staff member or as a student. I will make a few comments on some of the other awards as well.
Yeah.
Winthrop, the biggest winners of the entire weekend. Sorry, I didn't know you took it off. My bad.
No, I'll just go back and forth.
Winthrop are the biggest winners because Max gets Staff Member of the Year, they get Social Media Team of the Year, and then, of course, Josh gets Director of the Year. So big, yeah, that was all three. Sorry. Big wins for Winthrop. Texas A&M gets 2 as well. Club of the Year, they have an absurdly successful competitive nature and do such great work in the state of Texas, and Pierce, their club president, does win Student Leader of the Year. That makes sense for those two to go together. Big congrats to Pierce. Also, there were some very interesting points on social media about some of the other awards. And so before I say anything, I want to at least say this. Everybody who won these awards deserves to win these awards. But what the committee thought was important, which isn't bad, it is right in a way, and then, of course, what the social media side of things, what Twitter thought was important, were very different. And Twitter has never been a place for civil conversation, but I want to try and translate a little bit here.
Okay.
There was two, in my opinion, two big shockers. I would argue there was a third, but I'll save it. Syracuse gets Program of the Year. Boise State School of the Year. So talking about these awards, Program of the Year, the Syracuse vote makes sense when you think about it. Many people thought Cumberland they were a nominee. Many people had Cumberland potentially winning that for Program of the Year. St. Clair was up here. Winthrop was up here. Maryville was up here. Shenandoah,
All
Fisher.
winning programs.
Yes, all winning. Well, Shenandoah being a community building, student building, job creating program.
Mostly like
well.
high-level winning programs.
Yes, very, very high level. And also, I was surprised Northwood wasn't in the mix for their social media team or, their very nice competitive nature. But anyways, moral of the story, Syracuse had a massive breakthrough in collegiate esports with that Gen G partnership that sends students to Seoul, South Korea, and they get to work directly with the Gen G program. I mean, they've created a family within Gen G. You have to respect that, and that's what the committee viewed as the most valuable. And when you come to student experiences, there is a big debate that was happening around that weekend of what is more valuable. Is it the internship, the trips? Is it the competitive nature? Is it the LAN trips domestically? That can still be up for debate. I have my opinions as well, but regardless, Syracuse has been grinding for years now. Joey's done a really great job, not to mention that Nikita is there, not to mention Travis is there, and of course Sean as well running the whole production side of things. They do a really good job. Big congrats to Syracuse. Now, the most interesting one in my opinion, Boise State winning School of the Year. This one, I have to be honest, I'm confused as to what the parameters are for School of the Year, but you do have to give Doc his flowers. When you look at the Hall of Fame, or at least the Mount Rushmore of collegiate esports, Doc is undoubtedly on that list.
Hosting CLOL and CVAL is also a big one for Boise. And So I'll give my opinion on awards. I think these are cool, and I think the winners are deserving for whatever reason. But with the current state of collegiate esports, I don't think they have as much value as, like, in traditional sports. You have your Heismans, you have your slew of basketball awards, and each sport has their awards. But in esports, there's no set best awards right now. And I mean, we saw how many different award shows in the spring?
Two big ones. It was the Scholastic Esports Awards, their very first year. That was led by the Esports U family, the CSMG family. They kind of led that, and then they get to do this for Esports U as well.
So for me, I don't put too much stock in awards, enough to debate them, honestly, because it also having a community vote as well. You have to factor in the groups that the winners are in, and for me, I would think it'd be cool to win an award. Which we've got an award winner in the booth. I'm not discounting your Student Leader of the Year award.
Fortunately, a 2-time award winner. Very fortunately. And I don't want to cut you off. I'll let you finish.
But I'm not stressing if I'm not winning one of these awards here. I don't think this shapes the future of anyone that wins or loses, per se. It's cool to have in the middle of CECC, but I think we have a long ways to go before these awards are treated like the Heisman.
Yeah, I have a few more notes I'll wrap up my take on CECC with as a whole. So again, as somebody who's been fortunate enough to win student awards in Esports U in 2020, I have to remember now, it was May of 24, and then January of 25 with the Scholastic Esports Awards, I probably put a little too much stock into these awards because my career is very young, and I've experienced a lot in this scene in a very short amount of time, and now I'm transferring as well. So I'm also willing to admit that I probably value these awards too much, but I know for a fact, talking to many of these nominees, that they have the same take as you, where all they're worried about, especially from a staff role, is just supporting their students. The only real people who were upset were some of the students of, obviously, the club programs. As somebody who works in a club program, wearing my shirt right now, I can understand why people get upset about losing Club of the Year, for example, but people have to remember that collegiate esports is absurdly diverse in community, in accomplishments, in skill levels, and with all of that, it's hard to really put a pin on what is the best. The only other thing I want to shout out as well is with Broadcast Team of the Year, St. Clair with the Gauntlet Series deserved that, but also Full Sail partnered with EA, won the Madden Champion, or not won, but ran the Madden Championship Series, did many big esports events as well, not to mention NACE Grand Finals. So I have to give a big shout out to Full Sail because they put in a lot of work, and I have to give them their flowers. And I think other than that, I think that was just about everybody that I wanted to give extra shout-outs to. Overall, I'm very excited for the Scholastic Esports Awards to make another return, because what I would love, if they both have different metrics that they find successful, I think those two award shows can live together. Me personally, I would rather have one big award show, but if you don't think the awards matter that much, which is fair, they can mean different things and be in different categories and still live next to one another. NACE normally does big awards as well. They didn't do a big show this year, but they could. So regardless, CECC was a successful event.
Yes, it was.
We're not taking away or making comments on the event itself. And the awards, again, deserving to every single person who was able to walk away with that beautiful blue block. I know mine back in Georgia sits very nicely on a pedestal. So either way, that's my comments. I hate I couldn't be there this year, but hope to be there next year.
Heck yeah. I mean, it was a great event. I was there representing the SEL, which was really cool. Shout out to Cumberland for representing us in Rocket League and Valorant. Had a good time. So that was my first one since Atlanta. So I was happy to be there. Hopefully we'll be there next year.
Hopefully
together.
we'll both
TJ.
be there. I hope so.
But that does it for Collegiate Exclusive live from Huntsville, Alabama. I'm sure the shouts of Bruton Parker
Bruton Parker's getting started, loser semis.
Yeah, I'm sure it was audible over our microphones as they're getting loud. That's a big one. See if they qualify for the RLCS. But thank you for watching or listening or however you are viewing and consuming the podcast, as it will be on Spotify. I'll go back to the Airbnb and do that right after. But TJ, got any last words for this one?
No, I actually really like the total list of things we have to talk about today. I think this is our most comprehensive podcast episode yet, and we're together live for the first time for one of this. I hope this isn't the first time. CECC, we were going to do another live one. We'll save it for next year, and we'll both be representing spoiler alert, we'll both be representing different groups at the time. So Bepic will be with the SEL, hopefully, maybe even something more than that. I know for a fact I will be with something more than that. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. But just blessed to be here. Huntsville's beautiful. The weather has been hot. I haven't seen 90-degree weather at all, either in Georgia, too. So it's just nice to be here. And we get to watch our LCS literally right here in our living room, basically. So just glad to be here. Glad we get to do this again. And hopefully we'll have some more summer episodes as well. We need more content. We need more roster moves. So if you got fun rumors, send them in DMs.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be out of town next several weeks, so there won't be as many regular episodes of the Collegiate Exclusive Podcast, but there's not a ton of stuff to talk about outside of roster moves. So we'll cover it when we can. Make sure you follow both of us on Twitter, on Twitch as well, where we do stream the CEP, and the Collegiate Exclusive Podcast page on Spotify in the podcast section. But yeah, DJTJ on Twitter and Twitch.
It's been a long day.
Bepic Casts on Twitter, and MrBepic on Twitch. Collegiate Exclusive Podcast on Spotify. That does it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you later. There's not an ending screen, so it's just going to go to our logo. Bye, everyone.